This is Hammett.
And Jessica.
And you're listening to the Friendly Atheist Podcast. And you should go to patreon.com/friendlyatheistpodcast.
Long weekend. I just finished work. And I'm having a long weekend.
I'm like, normal people don't have long weekends.
It's a long weekend for Jessica.
Very
only.
nice.
Just had my first sip of wine. Everything's going so great, Hammett.
I'll ruin that. Don't worry. Give me 2 minutes.
Just heads up. I do have the windows open because it's gorgeous. And there's like 4 days a year that you can have all your windows open in Chicago. Also, I do have let me tell you what's happening with this smoke detector. It starts beeping like every 30 seconds, like, oh, I need a new battery. Replace the battery, no problem. Keeps beeping. Okay. So I took the battery out, took the top thing off. It was still beeping, but the beeping was coming from inside the ceiling. Right now in my bedroom, I had turned the circuit breaker off. There is no power.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
There's no power going to my bedroom right now, and the motherfucker is still beeping. I don't even know where it's coming from.
So we're all going to burn is what you're saying.
So I have the door closed and some some pillows piled up in front of it. So
totally
if
normal.
There's a beep, or there's children laughing outside.
Yes.
There may be some sound here.
We have to talk about the craziest thing that happened all week.
I don't have to do anything. I'm on
You
my
don't
weekend.
have to. Let's talk about the Duggar family.
I'm on island time. Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. They're back in the news for something that is truly awful.
Show?
No.
Why are we
The family doesn't have a show. I don't know if the kids have a spin-off show at this point, but the family still has Instagram. They're still posting things.
Is that what it is? They post on Instagram?
This is where I saw it, but here's what they did. They maybe for Easter, maybe a little after, just for the heck of it, they were making deviled eggs, and they had a picture of the kids making the deviled eggs, and the caption says, "We made some yellow pocket angel eggs."
So that's both hilarious and disgusting, and I'm not sure which one.
They can't say deviled eggs because they think they're tempting Satan or something.
But why don't they just say angeled eggs, as a fun play on words? Pocket? What, yellow pocket? That is gross. I hate
as
this.
someone who doesn't eat deviled eggs, it looks gross.
Oh, deviled eggs are delicious.
Sure, I'll take your word for that. Yellow pocket angel eggs.
Worse.
Which is, again, the second worst thing I know about the Duggars now.
Yeah. Ooh, really?
Maybe.
Number 2? I'm really curious what number 1 is. Do you have it teed up? Is it the fact that the brother sexually assaulted his sisters?
That would be the thing. Okay. I was tempted to say this is the worst. I'm like, no, that definitely is worse. But
even as a goof, let's not downplay that.
But this is bad. Here's the thing. The commenters on Instagram.
Yellow pocket angeled
just to be clear,
or angel eggs?
I did not know this, but now I do. Deviled eggs has nothing to do with the actual devil because I've never studied this term. I didn't know this, but I was like, whatever.
Well, you're not a white person. You don't eat deviled eggs.
Right. But it's a culinary term. It means spicy. It has nothing to do with Satan. These are not satanic eggs. That's not a synonym. But the commenters were like, haha, we call them blessed eggs. Or doubled eggs, because it sounds similar, but you're only teasing Satan then. I don't know. There's someone else wrote, why give the devil more popularity when he already runs rampant in society?
Fucking find the lie there, bud.
Dude.
That is wild.
I mean, I've seen stuff that involves Christian culture, and you roll your eyes, and you're like, oh, God, you guys are this is the, D-rated version of what normal people enjoy. But, I've never seen, a cooking term.
Have you seen there's a picture that somebody took of their local movie theater?
Oh, yeah.
And the movie Hellboy is in theaters right now, and they changed it to Heckboy, which is genuinely
on the
hysterical.
marquee outside the building.
That's extremely funny. That's a good goof.
I like how they're we got to censor the word hell. Mind you, if you see the movie, you're in for a shock.
Fine.
But also, but we're going to make money off the movie.
Yeah.
We don't want you to know the title.
Right.
But we are going to take your money if you want to watch it. And by the way, there's another movie playing at that same theater. This is literally the next movie in that marquee that's called Missing Link. That is a play on words about evolution. It's an animated movie. But again, that's fine. No need to censor that one.
Oh, it's not some sort of Christian propaganda about how evolution is bullshit?
It's a cute little animated movie that I don't know what it's about because I don't care. But they censored Hellboy. because that's the problem. Again, it's just the Christian culture thing. Like, really? Did you really have to do that?
Maybe
no.
This weekend I'll go through my refrigerator and relabel anything that might have an offensive name.
Hellman's mayonnaise. It's like, yeah, that has to change
Was
now.
that off the dome, or did you have that written down somewhere?
Someone had commented that somewhere.
That's pretty funny.
You're welcome. Someone I stole it from.
Hellman's, Heckman's.
Okay, more serious note. The Sri Lanka bombing, because we do segues.
Was that this week?
happened after we taped the last podcast.
Like that.
So we haven't
evening,
talked
I
about
think.
it. Yeah, something like that. But here's the aspect of it. Obviously, horrible, awful. The aspect I wanted to bring up is that obviously, like every politician put out some statement about how awful.
Easter worshippers versus.
Yeah. Here's the thing people are having problems with in like the right-wing media world. Like Todd Starnes, the Fox News guy who is like, Trump can do no wrong. I'm always going to criticize Democrats for everything. Like, he's going to say something stupid. But the question is, what are you going to say? So, like, here's one thing he picked apart. So Gavin Newsom, the governor of California now, said, like, this weekend is centered around a fundamental truth that out of darkness can come light. The horrifying attacks on families celebrating Easter in Sri Lanka should remind us, blah, 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 choose love over hate. It's a totally normal, fine message. Todd Starnes responds, if you're going to appropriate Easter, please get your facts straight. Easter is about Christians celebrating the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Up from the grave he arose, comma, sir.
Oh.
To make it folksy. Like, as if Gavin Newsom was like, fuck you, Jesus. That's not what his tweet said.
That's what I read between the lines. I saw that too.
Kamala Harris. Easter is a reminder that there is hope and rebirth. Even in the darkest of times, we must remember that today more than ever. I'm horrified, blah, blah, blah. Todd Starnes. Correction. He's like, I just imagine Dwight Schrute every time I think of Starnes.
False.
Yeah, false. Easter is when Christians celebrate the resurrection of Christ, Jesus Christ, comma, ma'am.
Oh.
And then Barack Obama says something totally fine. He's like, the attacks on tourists and Easter worshippers in Sri Lanka are an attack on humanity, et cetera, et cetera. Starnes, I believe the word you're looking for is Christian worshippers. Finish the tweet. Sir. Again, it's like, well, they were Christians who were worshiping on Easter. Easter worshippers is not a pejorative. It's not like I'm afraid to say Christ. It's that, well, they were celebrating Easter at the church.
Yeah.
So they are Easter worshippers that day.
Yeah, I did notice a lot of people doing like the one-to-one comparisons of like when there was a mosque shooting, they called them Muslim worshippers.
Right.
I actually, not that I...
But it wasn't like a specific holiday. Otherwise, you could say they were like Ramadan worshippers on that day. Or not, that's the wrong word to use. I've totally butchered it. But the point is, these people didn't say anything wrong or mean or anti-Christian. No one was denying like the fact that this was a religious holiday for the Christians.
Right.
And it was an attack on them because of their faith. And by the way, other people also got murdered.
Yeah, wait, just point of order. Do other religions celebrate Easter? Because like I always think of Easter as a Catholic holiday, but I just grew up in a Catholic area.
Jesus-believing religions are all cool.
I always get confused with the umbrella of like what's below Christian. Is there anything?
I don't know any Christian denomination that doesn't do it.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if
Correct
regardless,
it
is a
send your rats to Jessica.
It's a fucking dumb thing to like get wrapped around.
Here's
the
what I don't
on.
get. After all the attacks from the right against the Democrats who were saying this is horrible, Donald Trump tweets, heartfelt condolences from the people of the United States to the people of Sri Lanka on the horrible terrorist attacks on churches and the hotels that have killed, blah, blah, blah. He didn't say Christians. He didn't say Jesus. He didn't even say Easter. He said, I will give him this. He didn't say anything that was like, if that was the only tweet I've ever seen by Donald Trump, that was a fine, normal person, innocuous. Human tweet. He did say it killed at least 138 million people, which is a little overstated.
Wild. That is very sad.
But even when he corrected that, the rest of the tweet pretty much stayed the same. His tweet was fine as far as Trump tweets go. But again, didn't say all the stuff that they attacked everyone else for. It's like, Trump did it? Nope, he's fine.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like people from Fox News aren't intellectually honest. I don't know. So, that sounds crazy even as I say it.
All right, I got to go to a happier story.
Oh, okay.
This is not happy.
I got to go. I was like, 10-minute show this week, huh?
We go light this week. God, I have so many things I want to talk about this
Yeah,
week. There is a Kentucky restaurant called Bell's Smokin' Barbecue. They are selling this is in Williamstown, by the way, right next to Ark Encounter in Kentucky. Coincidence, but interesting.
Yeah, this shirt
They're selling a shirt that says, I support LGBTQ.
Wait, can I try to remember?
Please, what does LGBTQ stand for? Because it says it on the shirt.
Well, I'm already tripping over L.
Liberty.
Liberty. G is guns.
B.
Basketball. Bible.
T. Trump. Trump. Right?
Yeah.
And then Q stands for?
Barbecue?
Barbecue, because they can't spell barbecue.
Which isn't how an anagram works. Anagram?
Initialism, I believe, is the technical word, because I was corrected on that, too.
Because anagram has to spell a word, I think.
Yeah. So I support LGBTQ, Liberty, Guns, Bible, Trump, BBQ. They're selling this, which, again, if you're reading it, it's like you're basically saying... It's a diss on anyone who actually supports LGBTQ issues.
Yeah, it's garbage.
We know what you're trying to do. My favorite thing about this is they're like, well, we weren't trying to offend anybody.
Are you sure, sir?
Yeah, they were like, how dare people accuse us of hate?
They know exactly.
We respect, this is their actual apology, quote unquote. We respect all belief and lifestyles and want no ill will towards anyone.
We just like the Bible and Trump and... fuck gays.
My favorite thing about this is right after the apology, quote unquote, they posted another thing that said, please send your t-shirt orders to this email. And they spelled your YOU''RE.
Oy.
Please send our t-shirt orders.
Yeah.
He said it was a play on words, the owner.
That's not what a play on words is, but
Right.
that's fine. I mean, I do believe, yes, I think these people are trash. I do believe they think it is... and I'm using big quotes here, comedy, the way people wear, I don't think they do anymore, but FBI, female body inspector, things
yeah,
I
hilarious.
think I do believe it was more ignorance than outright fuck gay people.
Small tangent.
It can be two things.
There is a Trump supporting network called OANN. I can't remember what it stands for, but it's like Fox is too liberal for them. So this is OANN or something like that. They have a Twitter account, and they are on TV in some places, but they started tweeting clips this week of their new upcoming comedy show. They're trying to be The Daily Show, but
they've tried that before.
They have tried that before, and it failed. But this guy is basically like some schluppy dude in front of a green screen. You can tell it's a green screen. It's not good.
Yeah.
And the jokes are just bad because, again...
Can you give me a read on that?
No, go look it up.
Okay.
I can't remember the stuff, but here's what I remember. They weren't funny, but they clearly have a laugh track. And so it's imagine a not funny joke, turn up the laugh track and down, and then they post this this is what you're going to get 30 minutes of this coming up. This is good.
Laugh tracks make me cringe so hard. Live studio audiences are one thing, but oh god, that canned laughter. Anytime I see a show, I think Sports Night in its first season, which was Aaron Sorkin's first TV show, it's like a single camera show. So it's clearly not like a 3-camera show where it's on a set and there's an audience. But they have a laugh track, and it makes me so deeply uncomfortable, especially there's a part in the pilot where somebody does a long funny rant, and it's an applause break, and it's I'm sweating thinking about it. It makes me so uncomfortable. It's so cringy.
Oh my god!
Wow, that's. Can we watch that? Can that be a bonus thing that we watch?
If it ends up airing, you got to find the tweet somewhere. But it's so cringeworthy. Okay, so this is a very serious lawsuit that got settled this week. Okay. Not settled; we lost. Here's the situation: we've heard about lawsuits involving invocations at city council meetings and everything. The United States House of Representatives has an invocation. They have a paid chaplain too, but they usually say, hey, if you're a member of the House, you can nominate somebody to deliver an invocation. Mm-hmm. And by and large, as you would expect, they are Christian speakers. They are not always Christian speakers, but they usually are. But they have a handful of rules, you have to be ordained, and you have to, whatever their rules are.
I'm ordained. I can talk. Hit me up.
Atheist Dan Barker, who helps run, co-president of the Freedom from Religion Foundation, had filed a lawsuit years ago Because remember the Grease v. Galloway case that said invocations at city councils, the Supreme Court said, those are legal. And even if you allow invocations, people are totally allowed to say, in Jesus' name, as long as everyone gets the opportunity to speak at some point or another, there's a fair way to do it. They basically said it's cool at city council meetings, government meetings. What Dan wanted to know is, well, does that apply to Congress too? Because I'm an atheist. I want to give an invocation. Yeah. So can I give an invocation in the U.S. House? So what did he do? Well, you need a sponsor in the Congress. Well, Representative Mark Pocan, he's a Democrat from Wisconsin. He's a member of the Free Thought Caucus. He sponsored him. So you got that thing down. He heard guest chaplains have to be ordained. Well, it turns out Dan Barker used to be a Christian minister, he is ordained. And he even pointed out some of the people who have delivered invocations, they were ordained in one faith, but now represented a different faith. So it's not like whatever I was ordained in, I now have to practice. So, but if you're just saying I need an ordination, I got it. Here's my birth certificate. I got it. So whatever, I check mark. Okay. All good. Then they were like, we need a draft of your speech, which, again, they would never ask that of a Christian. No. But whatever. They submitted a draft of what Barker wanted to say, which was nothing offensive. And cool. You would think, again, we're all good now. They said no to him still. So basically, they said you don't get to give an invocation because you don't belong to one of the acceptable religions. This is me saying it. Okay. But this is essentially what they said. well, no, you're still not allowed to do it. So he filed a religious discrimination lawsuit after all this happened. And what they pointed out in the lawsuit, not a single atheist or agnostic, openly anyway, has delivered an invocation in 15 years. 97% were Christian. 99.8% were followers of the Abrahamic major religions. And again, he met all the requirements. They basically said no because he was an atheist. Yeah. That's the argument here. And the only problem was that they didn't like his opinions about God. What we found out in 2017, the judge dismissed his lawsuit. She said, you're going after the wrong people because they're part of Congress. They're allowed to set their own rules. They're not whatever. The chaplain's powerless to give you a go-ahead due to House rules because the House rules say you got to follow our things. So you can't sue the chaplain like you are because he's powerless to override that. So it was
so who's responsible?
It's like a technicality.
Sure.
But then they also said you can't sue the House because it's the House. And it's discrimination, but no one's at fault here. It's a little weird here.
That's not great.
So anyway, they appealed the decision, as you would expect. They were like, our government's not a theocracy. It needs to stop acting like one. This week, we got the decision from the D.C. Circuit. That's what happened this week, which is why I'm bringing this up. So this is the 3 judges that get assigned to this. And they basically said the earlier ruling was correct. And they said the decision was okay, not just because of some technicality, like you're suing the wrong people, but because excluding non-religious prayers is fine. They said the House rules say you got to pray to a higher power, and that's okay. The House does not violate the Establishment Clause, they said, by limiting its opening prayer to religious prayer. Even if Barker alleges that he was punished for being an atheist, what do you want us to do? You can't make them let you deliver it because the House says you got to be a religious prayer. So, they're not discriminating against you because you're an atheist. They're discriminating against you because your prayer doesn't work.
Yeah, it's a broken prayer.
There's no way around this, it seems. So it's the weirdest thing. So no atheists are allowed to deliver the same invocation that religious people do. The House has a de facto religion of anything except atheists. I know it's weird and technical, but it's so messed up. And there's nothing you can really do about this. According to the Center for Inquiry, which did a press release after this, they said it's obvious now that our federal courts view atheists as second-class citizens. They're not even trying to hide it anymore or dress it up in obfuscating language. It's a messed up, weird decision. Imagine if they did that to a Muslim. But of course, in this case, they'd say, no, it's cool. You believe in a God, so you're good. Just not the atheists. They basically contorted everything to ban non-religious people from giving it, and it's totally fine according to everybody.
Yeah, that's not great.
And what are you going to do now? Appeal to the Supreme Court? That's not going to get you anywhere. So bad decision, consequential decision too. What if other courts now, other governments, city councils are like, well, I guess we can say no. I know the rules are different, but again, you never know what the ripple effects are going to be of these types of decisions. Oh, it's frustrating.
Can I talk about a lawsuit that went in our favor?
Yes.
So the Catholic Social Services in Philadelphia have long since wanted to use religious criteria to turn away same-sex couples who are seeking to become foster families.
So if you're getting money from the state to do foster placements, adoptions, we want to be able to say, hey, we're getting the money from the state, but we don't want to give these kids to gay people.
Right, exactly. So they're being funded by the state, but they still want to use their own personal guidelines, which in this case are anti-gay.
Yeah.
But on the 22nd, a federal appeals court ruled that that any Philadelphia taxpayer-funded child welfare agency has to now abide by non-discrimination requirements.
So they have to follow the rules.
So they have to follow the rules or they don't get state money. So Leslie Cooper, who is the deputy director of the ACLU's LGBT and HIV project, said, "This is a victory for the thousands of children in Philadelphia's child welfare system. Many of these children live in group homes, are separated from siblings, or age out of foster care without ever becoming a part of a family because of the shortage of foster and adoptive families to care for them. Prospective foster and adoptive parents should be judged not by their capacity to provide love and support to the child, not the religious views of a tax-funded agency." So it's good news.
Good.
It's good news for...
Michigan had something similar happen this week, too, and one of the results of this is that a Christian foster care clinic actually said, we're going to change our rules to allow, dealing with gay couples.
Oh,
which is unusual.
Usually they just close down.
Yeah, and throw a big hissy fit about how the world's against them.
Right, and then blame gay people for children not getting adopted.
And discriminating against Christians for not tolerating our intolerance. But no, one group in Michigan is like, fine, we'll just deal with gay people because we want to stay in business because that's good for the kids.
And that's our goal.
Yeah, even the attorney general, who is a hardcore liberal, is like, congratulations, that's a wonderful thing you're doing.
You did the right thing.
Which is generous to people who first wanted to be bigots.
Sure.
But okay, it's something,
fine.
so good. Similar, it's also anti-gay. It's Franklin Graham. Of course it's Franklin Graham.
Yay.
This week, on Sunday, Pete Buttigieg and his husband did an interview for CBS Sunday Morning. It's a cute interview with focused on his husband rather than just Buttigieg. And so Franklin, and one of the things Pete Buttigieg said is that, he's just acting like this is totally normal, right? Hey, this is my marriage.
Yeah.
We're not to say it's celebrating it, I don't even think he's saying that. He's just no, we just exist. We're together.
People bring their spouses on shit all the time.
We're not treating it like anything different. Right. That's basically the extent of what they're saying. Here's what Graham says. Mayor Buttigieg says he's a gay Christian. As a Christian, I believe the Bible, which defines homosexuality as sin, something to be repentant of, not something to be flaunted, praised, or politicized. And just about that, flaunted? What do you think Pete Buttigieg is doing?
Well, it's literally the exact same thing we talked about last week of don't shove your sex life in my face. I'm I'm hella not. That's that's the same as saying you had a kid. Oh, okay, I get it. You had sex.
Buttigieg is not bragging about being gay.
No, he's
but
just
when he's asked about
spouse.
it, he's like, yeah, I'll talk about it if you want me to talk about it.
He's not ashamed of his marriage?
Right. He's not ashamed of his marriage. He's not again, I don't know in political terms how you would flaunt being gay because it's still a liability more than it is an asset.
Yeah.
But also, I love this thing because it's just so Franklin Graham of him. Being gay is not something to be politicized. Oh my God, the religious right only politicizes gay stuff. It's always how dare these people politicize being gay.
You're the only person who's doing this.
Yeah, exactly. So again, and by the way, look at Franklin Graham saying, like, I follow the Bible, so Pete Buttigieg, you are doing something wrong. Have you met Donald Trump?
It's so astounding. It's so astounding how
like paying off a porn star to keep quiet about the adultery and then the sexual assault and all the lying
married.
And the kids in cages and all the ignorance and cruelty. None of that bothers Franklin Graham.
Yeah. Again,
but Pete Buttigieg smiling next to his husband for an interview. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's almost like the right isn't intellectually honest. And I don't know. That can't be true because they're human, so they have to be intellectually honest, right, Hammett?
Oh my God. I don't know how they don't realize what they're doing. They have to know what they're doing.
They know what they're doing. Can I talk another gay story? Have you ever heard of the musical, the 25th Annual Putnam County Spelling Bee?
I've heard of it. I do forensics. It's all anyone does all the time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So this is, I consider myself sort of a connoisseur of musicals, but this is not in my...
I know, you're white. Stop bragging.
Wait until you hear what the next Fables episode's going to be. You're going to hate it. Anyway, I'm not familiar with this, but a middle school rather in Maryland, Hyattsville Middle School. They had been rehearsing for a few months for a production of the musical, the 25th Annual Putnam County Spelling Bee. And all of a sudden, it was canceled. Have you heard the story?
No. Why was it canceled? That musical is not offensive.
Well, haven't.
I've seen cuttings of that play. It's just silly. What did they find problematic?
Well, a parent complained. Now, the notice
Are
that went out to...
Christians mad that people spelled stuff right?
No.
Because I've seen their tweets.
That's a good goof. Now, in this, the notice that was sent out to parents, they did not give a specific reason why it was canceled. But apparently, students were told that the complaint was about the portrayal of a married gay couple in the play.
They're just existing.
Just doing their thing. So that's the unofficial, somebody, right? Read between the lines. Somebody complained that there's a gay couple. They canceled it, but we're other reasons that have nothing to do with this. A light broke. Sorry.
I feel so bad for the kids then.
Yeah. Then there was a ton of outcry. So I found out about it through.
Because that's a dumb reason.
It's super dumb. It was on BroadwayWorld.com. And so a bunch of celebrities retweeted their I think justifiable, not outrage, but sadness. One of the parents from that school, who himself is a gay married man and used to be is connected to theater, started a petition that said let us have this back. So now happy ending, the show is back on.
Okay.
And the statement said, our chief concern focused on the age level and grade level appropriateness of the material. We're not seeking to remove gay characters from the production. As a school system, we celebrate our diversity and recognize the many rich contributions of the LGBTQ community to our school and the greater Hyattsville community. So they righted that ship in a pretty significant way.
Good.
Apparently, there's a song in that musical about a kid getting an erection during the spelling bee, but it's other junior highs have done it and they change it to
there are ways around it. There's sanitized versions of every popular there's Rent at high schools.
Which is why I mean they did Rent on fucking Fox. Yeah. That shit was wild. And they did Contact
live on tape.
It's fine.
But you could do that musical and get rid of the actually inappropriate stuff without getting rid of gay people.
Yeah.
What the hell?
I mean, listen, when I was in high school, we did Anything Goes, and that shit is so fucking racist. And we went right on with it.
There you go.
We had some cool white people being cool Asian stereotypes. No big deal.
There you go.
It was 2003. We didn't know.
There is a YouTube channel called Girl Defined.
Is it GRRRL?
No. It's girl.
GYRL. Okay.
Regular Girl Defined. It's these two girls. They're sisters. They talk about Christian women being Christian women. Let's talk about that.
Because it's never portrayed in the media?
Never. For the most part, because I've been watching them for way too long. It's
How old
material. 30s.
Oh
my
God.
30s.
I
They're
was
not
thinking
12.
like teenagers.
No,
okay,
like they're
I feel
30.
much better.
They're basically saying, hey, we have been in your shoes. We are older Christian women now, but we've been where you are because we're relatively young. So we're going to talk about issues that like teenage Christian girls have to deal with.
Sure.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
For the most part, they avoid controversial stuff, at least as far as culture war stuff goes. And it's like, all right, whatever. I can roll my eyes and move on.
Yeah.
That's fine.
And it's almost like you're not their target audience.
I'm really not their target audience, but this one bothered me.
Okay.
They made a video and posted a blog basically talking about sex after you get married. But here's the premise of it. It's one of the sisters, Bethany, who was talking about it. And her story is she did the whole purity culture thing. She has said this openly. I'm not saying anything I shouldn't be saying. She said she was abstinent until marriage. She recently got married. I think she's 30. Everything about the wedding. They posted video of the wedding. It's lovely and beautiful. And now they're married. Fill in the blanks right there. Okay, so she's the one that's now going to give you sex advice. And like, I don't know where this is going.
Is she giving sex advice, or is she just discussing her? You just keep talking.
She was basically talking about like what it's like to lose your virginity after marriage, more or less. And here's what she said. Again, this is her words. I can tell you this. I think there's nothing sexier than two newlywed lovers enjoying and exploring sexual intimacy in the context of marriage.
Okay.
Blah, 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 blah. I can tell you this for sure. Being a virgin on my wedding night was not awkward, as some may speculate, right? It was the opposite. It was sweet, new, different, exciting, and filled with all the butterflies a stomach can hold. Then this
was her husband or no?
Then this gets weird. Does that mean the husband and I had sex on our first night of marriage? Maybe we did, and maybe we didn't. That's not really the point anyway.
Are you sure?
Okay, I don't
Feels
care.
like the point you're driving to.
But then she said, sex within marriage should be the most non-awkward thing ever. Blah, blah, blah. Subtitle for the next part of the blog. This isn't some one-night stand cheap thrill. Then she continues. This isn't with some dude who's committed nothing to you. This isn't with some boyfriend who could leave you for a better experience or a hotter body. This is your husband, the man who has given up all other potential options and has chosen you. Like you're not helping your case here.
That whole paragraph made me so uncomfortable.
I want to make this clear.
Yeah.
I do not care that she was a virgin until she was married. I don't care about her sex life. It's her business. I absolutely am not shaming her for her decisions, even if they're not anyone else's decisions, right?
Yeah.
Do not care.
Not a decision
don't
I would
care.
make for myself, but fine.
Right. Okay. Here's my problem with it. The implication of what she's saying is that if you wait until marriage to have sex, sure, it may take some time before it's great, but it's gonna be amazing. And it's not gonna be awkward because you're with someone you love. And also, this is the only guy who could ever commit to you because he has, and he's never gonna leave you for someone better, quote unquote, however you want to define that. Divorce doesn't happen. The implication that okay, well, now you're married, therefore you're always going to be sexually compatible, even if it takes some work to get there. That's a harmful, horrible thing to say, because no, not every couple is going to be sexually compatible.
Yeah.
And even if you're married and you love each other, I'm not saying it's going to be bad or abusive, but it doesn't mean it's going to be great necessarily.
No.
And especially if you don't,
at first.
especially if you don't know what you like and what your partner likes and whatever. I get that some of that takes time.
Yeah.
But to suggest to anyone that if you wait till marriage, it's okay. I know it's frustrating, but it'll be okay because it's totally going to work out. No, it's not. And you are telling women something that is harmful, not just advice, but a lie.
Well, and it's interesting because it sort of is the new iteration of what used to be women don't enjoy sex. Because that used to be quote unquote common knowledge. Men want to have sex, women do not want to have sex. They do it as a duty to their husband, their country, whatever. And I think the new iteration is you'll enjoy sex. You have to enjoy sex. It's
within marriage. It has to happen now.
It's a real flip of the coin. And I think the things that are interesting is Hemant, I hate to brag. I've had plenty of bad sex in my life. like shit does not work out.
As does like everybody.
Everybody.
And here's the thing. Again, I don't care if you choose to be abstinent or you're pressured or you're forced to be abstinent because like you have no options. Welcome to my childhood, right? Like, okay, I don't care about that. That happens.
Sorry, I just got your joke.
That wasn't a joke. Thank you. But I'm saying, like, again, yes, bad sex is going to happen.
Yeah.
Good sex could also happen.
Yeah.
And that's
maybe she's really lucky. Maybe she happens to be really sexually compatible. And that's
great. Good for you. It doesn't happen for everyone. And this idea that it's just going to happen as soon as you put the ring on and you have your wedding under Jesus watching you.
Yeah.
No, that's not a magical formula that makes it better. And this implication that like this guy's committed to you, but if you're not married and you have sex, that guy isn't committed to you.
Yeah, and it's such like a fucking slap in the face to people. Because I know a lot of people who have had committed relationships that don't involve marriage. And even if those things end, that's okay. Like, it's all right that you didn't stay together forever. Maybe it wasn't quote unquote meant to be or whatever. Here's the other thing I want to talk about.
Yeah.
I cannot believe that somebody who, maybe this is me, I don't know, projecting or speaking out of turn. It's hard for me to believe that a person who has grown up their entire life attaching sex to bad, sin, dirty, is all of a sudden going to switch a flip and be comfortable having sex.
And that is not a Christian thing. You go from sex is bad, wrong, you should stay away from it,
you need to have sex, it's your marital duty.
And it better be good.
And so, like, at what point...
It's gonna be good.
Yeah. At what point are women allowed to, like, have sex that... I mean, that's not fair, but it's just a really
to just figure it out, learn, deal with it without feeling guilty about it.
Like, this felt stupid. I hated it, but like, whatever. I don't know. It's just...
It's very much, this is what her version of Christian culture seems to be, this one-size-fits-all type of sex.
Yes.
That's not the case. And here's the thing. It is not just me saying this, because plenty of Christian women and former Christian women have said this is exactly what's wrong with the purity culture myth. This idea that, like, first of all, your dad owns your body until you're married, and then another dude has it. But that guy gets to have sex with you. And also it's going to be great because you'll make it work because that's what God wants.
Because what's the alternative?
And anything else is horrible and sinful and everything. It's, again, that part I kind of expect them to say, but this idea that if you're single and dating somebody, he's not committed to you. This also, like, your boyfriend's going to leave you for someone with a hotter body. It suggests
fucking try to find one.
It very much suggests that every guy is only looking for a particular type of person, which again shows you how little she knows about what she's talking about, because everyone has different tastes and interests, and like, what do you define as a hotter body?
Yeah, and I
that's
think
not the same for everybody.
Things like that, and this is when we talk about feminism, how it affects men as well, because that stereotype of men will go after whatever the hottest piece of tail they can get is a really damaging stereotype for men, because then they're shamed if they're dating like a not like somebody who maybe isn't conventionally attractive, because things about people are attractive other than their physical appearance. And I'm so sorry to break it to you, but like, even if you're really hot when you're 25, like, that ain't gonna last. Like, maybe you should dig in a little deeper. Like, it's wild. It's insulting to men to say that they have the depth of a puddle and they don't care about any woman beyond their looks until they get married.
Right.
And then once again, everything changes.
If she had said something like, I waited till marriage, it was the right decision for me, and sex is good and great and whatever, but that's my experience.
Yeah.
And by the way,
yes.
it may not work that way for you, and here's some resources. That I could have understood. That's
or
not
like,
what
hey,
she said.
It's okay to like explore sex therapy. Like, it's okay to like reach out and...
Hey, it may not work with your husband. Go see a therapist or a counselor or whatever.
Or it's okay if you have really bad sex and like maybe you'll figure it out, maybe not. Like, fucking...
And here's how to talk to your partner about that.
God damn it! I feel like I talk more about sex with you than literally anybody in my life, and I don't know how I got to.
And you do it for an audience.
I don't know how I got to this point. I actually have another thing about purity culture that I'd like to talk about.
There we go.
That's how you fucking segue, Hammond.
Yes.
Professionals.
Yes.
So there's a man named Anthony Pike, I think, Paik. He's a sociologist at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. And he just published a new study in Journal of Marriage and Family. So what he wanted to look into was basically a longitudinal study of adolescent health, it is called, in 2002 and 2009. Essentially, he reached out to young women, girls who took an abstinence pledge.
Right.
Which, when does that usually happen? 12-ish? Or younger?
It could be younger.
So, and if you don't know, these abstinence pledges are really prominent in many parts of the world, which is many parts of America. It's, I think, uniquely American
evangelical culture, especially.
Yeah.
I'm not going to have sex.
Well, they have these elaborate ceremonies where they commit themselves to their father and say, "I'm not going." Like,
they wear
I am
their
my
silver ring.
Yeah, I am basically I am my father's until I am my husband's. It's super healthy and no problems there.
You're
anyway,
signing off which man owns you.
Oh God, it's so bad. So anyway, so he wanted to Pike wanted to look into.
So what happens to these women?
Yeah, like what happened down the road. Whether do they uphold their abstinence? Do they fall away? What happens with like their sexual health? Do they become pregnant? So what he found out was, so 18% of women who didn't take pledges, 18% were pregnant out of wedlock within 6 years of having sex. And I think he's presuming this is an unwanted pregnancy. It's kind of vague, but it's within, assuming you're in your early 20s and not ready or whatever. 30% of those who took the pledge and then broke it were pregnant within 6 years of having sex. So when the
abstinence people finally had sex, they didn't know how to protect themselves.
That's exactly right. He says he calls it culture lag. So it's the idea that people might reject certain values faster than they update the actions supporting those values. So in this case, the pledge breakers abandon the idea that they should be virgins until they're married, but they didn't use birth control and condoms because they hadn't evolved that far to, A, they hadn't evolved far enough to think that that's an okay thing to do, and B, many of them probably didn't get any education on...
It's like the people who like certain figures on like the alt-right or like adjacent to the alt-right, but like you haven't figured out all of their horrible positions.
Right, yeah, exactly. So they did say that devout pledgers had fewer sexual partners, but those who weren't really, so people who took the pledge and ended up not being super religious, they, as a whole, engage in riskier sexual behaviors than those who did not pledge at all.
And this goes back to, like, this is, again, the abstinence problem with marriage. If you've had sex for most of your life before you got married or something, you kind of know how to deal with bad sex. You know how to deal with different types of partners, what have you. This sounds weird, but like you're ready for anything. But if you haven't had any and you don't know what you're doing necessarily, you may make decisions that anyone else would be like, what are you doing? You don't have to do that. You should be doing this or that.
Because you don't have context to work out of.
Right. And again, this is... I'm not saying you need to go have sex or something, but I am saying you should know what you're walking into.
Right.
And you're right. There are people who are like, well, it's not surprising they want to have sex. But again, there's a knowledge that comes with
it's
that
almost
that
like
you
that's
should
a
also
fundamental
know.
Human drive.
Right. And if you don't know what you're doing, there are consequences.
Yeah, and it's such a wild...
All the more reason for comprehensive sex ed.
Exactly. It's still such a wild leap for people to say, like, if you mention sex to teenagers, that makes them want to have sex. Like, I hate to break it to you, but teenagers are horny as fuck.
If you don't mention it, they're also going to want to. Surprise.
Yeah.
I just want to spend a minute on this because it's stupid, because it's Steve King from Iowa. He is the racist dude, one of many of the racist Republicans. But he's super racist.
Yeah, he's more racist than your average.
He's the guy that if they banned like white supremacists on Twitter, he would have to go, and that's why they're not going to ban white supremacists on Twitter. But one of the things he said at a town hall is he said this to an actual question, because at the town hall they're brutal, some of the people. Because if you go to a town hall with Steve King, you know you want to ask him some questions. So one's I think the first question someone asked is like, why don't you resign already? But one of the things he said, Here's what he wanted to say. I've been through a lot. I've survived it all. I'm here to represent people. What he said was, when I have to step down to the floor of the House of Representatives and look up at those 400 and some accusers, because they fight like 400 to 1 to rebuke Steve King. They all signed on to that when he said something racist recently. He's like, when I see all those accusers, we just passed through Easter and Christ's Passion, and I have better insight into what he, Jesus, went through for us, partly because of that experience. I know what it's like to be Jesus because people hate me.
It's so embarrassing.
Like, yes. First, Jesus was a Middle Eastern Jew. Steve King would want him deported.
Yeah.
You don't know what it's like. Jesus, kindness to strangers. Steve King, let's kick out the children with the immigrant asylum-seeking parents. Like, Jesus was tortured and Steve King lost a couple of committee assignments.
Genuinely. How does somebody like Steve King reconcile and I've said this before, and people have written in like, oh, Jesus also did some shitty shit. Like, right. I understand. I know he like cursed a date tree or whatever the fuck he did.
Fig tree.
God damn it. But
know your Bible.
But how does he reconcile the New Testament, the story of a man who took in sex workers and fed the poor and healed the sick?
And be a Republican?
And be and not be a Republican, be a white supremacist. Like, really and truly, is it just the ability to separate those two ideas in your head? Is it such an idea of otherness that you think you're responsible for, like, your people, quote unquote, which means to him, white Americans? It's a genuine question. I do not know how one can reconcile those.
You're trying to make me explain the logic of Steve King.
Yeah.
I don't know how I can do that.
That's why I poured you a glass of wine. I thought it would loosen you up.
Yeah. This is the funniest thing. In Ireland, this actually happened a while ago, but I only found out about this now, and the public only found out about this now. In early 2018, basically the Irish version of the Department of Education, they released some new rules about how religious instruction would work in public school. And the thing is, like, they all have to take religion classes, even in, like, the public schools. Mm-hmm. And a lot of these are, like, indoctrination classes, too. And what they said is, and some of them are theoretically, like, objective classes about religion, not indoctrination classes. But here's the thing. If you don't want to take it, let's say they're teaching the indoctrination classes and you're a parent and you're an atheist and you don't want your kids sitting through that, you can sign them out of it.
Okay.
That's okay. But then your kid has to sit in study hall or like just sit in another room and wait.
You mean the thing I only want to do in high school, sit in study hall?
Yeah. Or do some other mindless activity. Sure. That's your alternative. And that's stupid. It's like, why, if you're not taking this class, why can't you do something productive with your time?
Sure.
So the Department of Education in Ireland in early 2018 released this thing saying those who do not want to take the religion classes, they should be allowed to take any alternative class that is offered at that time, like during the year. So, hey, if you want to take another math class during that time or another science class.
Who the fuck's first choice would be math, you nerd?
Have you met me? Like, take any academic class if you want to take it. That's fine. Like,
I've taken a theater
They basically said, hey, schools, make sure those kids who don't want to take have a reasonable alternative. Don't give them something mindless. Let them take a real class if they want to take a real class.
Yeah, that's wild that this had to, like,
This was early 2018. Here's what's new. There's a podcast called the Free Thought Prophet podcast. Atheists, these two guys, Seamus and John, run it. And they filed...
not Seamus.
Seamus. And they filed a Freedom of Information Act, their version of it. Yeah. And they're like, because they wanted some information on this for some research they're doing. What they found is that after the government released this suggestion, two bishops from the Irish Episcopal Conference had written to the government basically saying this is a horrible idea. And what they said is, and I'm paraphrasing here, what they said is, if you allow kids to not take religion classes and take like a STEM class, like a science, math, English class, which because they have standardized tests there too. And like if you're taking an extra English class or an extra science class, you may do better on like the Irish SATs or whatever.
Yeah, maybe we should reward kids who want to learn more.
So what they're saying is if you let them drop out of the religion class and take a actual class, they will get smarter, and the kids who take the religion classes are going to be held back. And so,
what?
I'm not even joking. Here's what they said. The kids who continue to take religious education should not be disadvantaged in terms of the things you may be tested on by offering the people who don't take the religion classes some other class. You're putting the religious kids at a disadvantage for taking religious education.
So
put this another way, taking a religion class makes you dumber, say the bishops.
By their own admission. There is no intellectual or educational merit to those religion classes.
Right, and I realized what we're saying is like
their hand.
They're saying standardized testing. Look, I know that's not a way to prove you're smart. I know, like, we are talking about something very different.
Loves standardized testing at Hammett Meta on Twitter.
Yeah.
He wants only standardized testing.
But yeah, they're basically saying, oh no, if you give kids an option of getting smarter during religious education time, more kids are not going to want to take religious education.
Holy
so
shit.
You can't offer this as an option. So this letter was not public until this week. And that
so embarrassing.
And here's the thing. The Irish government, by October of last year, they changed the rules again to basically say, look, if it's an indoctrination type of religion class, they have to be opt-in.
Okay.
So that's one way of saying you can't just opt out and take something else.
Sure.
Because, look, it has to be an opt-in if you take it. But if it's a general, objective religious education class, opting out is not an option because you got to take at least that class. So they basically made it so that you got to take some sort of religious education, but the indoctrination ones you got to do another step for so that those kids cannot take like a math class in as an alternative during that time. Wow.
That's so bad. Like
I can't believe the bishops admitted our kids will get dumber. So you got to make sure the smart kids can't get ahead by skipping our shit. Oh my God.
Oh, that's wild.
That's a real thing that happened. And so Seamus and John sent me that letter. They're like, you may want to check this out. I'm like, yes, I do.
Seamus and John, you're doing God's work. No pun intended.
I got one more stupid story for you because it's
Do I have any stupid stories?
Here's the story. There is this right-wing bishop.
Okay, you're going to keep talking. I'm going to refill my wine glass.
No problem. Don't worry. I will have fun with this. There's this right-wing rabbi. Sorry. His name is Daniel Lapin. He has a podcast. He speaks at Liberty University. I don't know why, but he is a rabbi. And like last week, he said on his podcast, like marrying for money is way better than marrying for love because this guy's romantic.
Wait.
I'm not even spending time on that because that's not what I want to talk about. He was doing a Q&A on his blog, and someone writes in. He offers advice. Someone asked him, like, oh, no, my daughter's a lesbian. What do I do? My favorite part of that letter, she has always been heterosexual.
I've watched her bang dozens of dudes.
Right? So she's like, what do I do? My daughter's a lesbian. Like, the correct answer is you do nothing. It's not about you. Shut the hell up. Let your daughter live her life.
Yep.
But this guy, Rabbi Daniel Lapin, and his wife, Susan, they basically, first they started by saying, first of all, don't overreact. All right. That's like, good, sensible.
An overreaction might be to write into a show that you listen to.
They also said, like, don't wreck their relationship, the mother and daughter. Like, you don't want to ruin your relationship over this issue. So again, yes, that's good. Yes. Then he gets worse. He's like, just to let you know, women with women is in no way comparable to men with men.
Oh.
Which is news to me.
Based
like,
on...
lesbians are okay, biblically speaking, relative to gay men. Mm-hmm. He also said, let me tell you about lesbianism, says this rabbi. Very often... women, quote, he used quotes, women, quote, discover this predilection in themselves after having been badly hurt in life, often in situations involving a man or men, blah, blah, blah. You are most likely facing a wounded child. So at some point, someone writes in the comments and they're like, wait. You said, biblically speaking, lesbians are not comparable to gay men. where is this coming from? How do you know this?
Missed that chapter.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where it gets really good.
Oh, no.
So here's what he writes
I don't
back.
want it to,
I got to read this one to you. The Bible repeatedly and explicitly prohibits a man from inserting his reproductive organ into the cavity of another man's body.
It.
Nowhere in the Hebrew Bible, and I presume in the New Testament either, is there any prohibition of one woman tickling another.
Oh, no!
That's what he thinks they do. Lesbians tickle each other. There is also an important difference between the cavity in a woman's body into which her husband inserts his reproductive organ and the cavity of a man's body employed in sodomy. Not for nothing is it often called the birth canal.
This podcast is canceled. I cannot.
Oh, yeah. And then he goes on. Since the male organ is not just about pleasurable sensation, but it also makes human life possible, where it goes and what it does is supremely important.
Thank you for listening to the last episode of the Friendly Atheist podcast.
My God.
I'm never sitting in this room
my
again.
God.
I have to burn down this house.
Today's episode, never listen to a virgin give advice about sex. Never listen to a rabbi talk about being a lesbian.
I'm so uncomfortable.
He apparently also, since we're already canceling the show, he seems to think no straight couples have anal sex. He is unaware that women have sex toys. And why does who's going to tell him this?
Tickle, huh?
Tickling
That's
is what
where he
lesbians
landed?
do to each other.
Do you think he says that because, oh my God.
I don't think it's a euphemism. He didn't put it in quotes.
No, I think this is a man who does not understand how to give women sexual pleasure. And so he cannot conceive of any sort of sexual gratification happening outside of penetrative vaginal sex.
Like all missionary all the time. That is all anyone ever does.
Yeah.
Everything else is weird.
And like women, again, and this is, right, this is the extension of the thing we talked about before of like women's enjoyment of sex is tertiary at best. It is not about, like, that's why they think lesbianism is so non-threatening, because they're so uninterested in whether a woman is having any sexual pleasure that, like, it's bullshit to them. They think they let men tickle each other. Like, what is he talking about? I hated that.
Oh, you're welcome.
No, that was awful. I'm so unhappy right now.
Oh.
Can I read a thing?
Sure.
I'm very excited to read this. Have you heard of a man named Stephen Moore?
Donald Trump-related guy who he nominated to be Fed chair?
He's to serve on the Federal Reserve Board. You were close. Also, have we talked about Herman Cain at all? Why did he get nominated? Is it literally because Trump is like, the only black people I know are people who are on the debate stage with me?
Who's a Republican who doesn't hate me yet? That guy probably doesn't.
I genuinely...
The best part is Herman Cain turned down the job because they didn't make any money, relatively.
Oh, is that why? I
He's
thought
like, I would make more money speaking, so...
Oh, I thought he turned it down because people were like, hey, remember when we found out that you were like sexually harassing, slash assaulting women?
Yeah, that's not why he said no.
Cool as usual,
He said
Herman.
no because I don't make enough money as the on the Fed.
So this gentleman.
Yes, what did Stephen Moore do?
Stephen Moore. Holy shit. This guy hates women so much.
In the Trump administration?
I know. I'm shocked too. I have a series of quotes that I would like to read for you.
Go on.
In a dramatic reading series. Let me take a sip of wine to wet my palate.
I love how every Trump nominee has this backlog of horrible things they've said.
Nobody has a clean slate.
It's inevitable.
Yeah. So, in 2000, he complained about his wife voting for Democrats, writing, "Women are so malleable. No wonder there's a gender gap." Separate column in 2000. He criticized female athletes for advocating for pay equality, writing that they wanted, quote, equal pay for inferior work. March 2002, quote, here's the change I propose. No, I think this is about basketball. No more women refs, no women announcers, no women beer vendors, no women anything. There is, of course, an exception to this rule. Women are permitted to participate if and only if they look like Bonnie Bernstein. I don't know about it. I assume she's pretty. I don't know. The fact that Bonnie... Oh, I'm sorry. She's a CBS sports journalist.
Oh, okay.
The fact that Bonnie knows nothing about basketball is entirely irrelevant.
It's funny because she's stupid.
He also said that she should wear halter tops because it was 2002 and we didn't know how fashion worked. And also, he's a sexist monster. Next one. How outrageous is this? This year, they allowed a woman to ref the men's NCAA game. Liberals celebrate this breakthrough as a triumph for gender equity. The NCAA has been touting this as an example of how progressive they are. I see it as an obscenity. There is no area.
Notice that he's not saying she made the wrong call somewhere.
No, it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. This isn't the point. Hemmett, you're missing the point.
Yes.
You're an idiot.
Yes.
Is there no area in life where men can take a vacation from women? What's next? Women invited to bachelor parties? Women in combat?
Women are invited to
they've done that already. Yes. Why can't women ref women's games and men the men's games? I can't wait to see the first lady.
Does he know that men also coach women's teams?
No, doesn't matter.
All right.
He said something about it. Yeah, don't worry. I have a quote about that, too.
Oh, really?
I can't wait to see the first lady ref have a run-in with Bobby Knight, which is 2002. I don't think Bobby Knight was
Bobby Knight was an asshole. Like, no one wants to interact with him.
Yeah, like, can we stop saying that he's any kind of hero? He... was a dangerously unstable man who didn't know how to control his temper.
I believe Stephen Moore has said, I didn't know any of those quotations, but I believe he's said something like, I was just joking because conservative comedy. Like, he's like, I was tongue-in-cheek with all of this.
It's because conservatives can't do comedy. And while I'm venting on the subject, here's another travesty. Now, this one, Hemmett, is going to hit me personally. Because as you surely know, I participate in and captain a co-ed rec softball league.
Yes.
In playground games and rec leagues... these days, women now feel free to play with the men, uninvited in almost every case. There is no joy in dunking over a girl. Never mind that I can't dunk except on 8-foot baskets, which is tiny but funny and giving him credit. If I could, I wouldn't celebrate dunking over someone named Tina.
Damn.
Quote, several readers, all women, have called an email to complain about my last column was sexist because I said women shouldn't be permitted to ref the men's game. The retort was, well, then why should men ref the women's games? Mm-hmm. Look, for all I care, the women can use chimpanzees to ref their games. I hate women's basketball.
Few too many words in that last one. I hate women.
Yeah.
Period.
So anyway, that's a super cool dude who's going to be
run
on
everything.
the Federal Reserve Board, which I listen to Planet Money. I know how important that shit is. Ooh, I got it.
Nice
Did
job.
you see?
I didn't, but I heard women can't play basketball, so I assume you just missed that.
I always crumple up my notes and throw them in my recycling bin, and I miss all the time. And I just got it in, and Hemmett's denying me my right as a female athlete.
Yeah. I got one more. I got two more. So there is a sheriff in New York State, in upstate New York somewhere, something like that, Erie County, wherever it is, Sheriff Timothy Howard. And basically, here's the dilemma they have. He wants a SWAT team that is full-time. Right now, they're part-time, and he's like, we need a stronger SWAT unit, so I need money for that. I also need money for a helicopter because I can get around faster that way. I'm assuming those are legit things
Erie County
that maybe...
is where Buffalo is.
Okay, so, very much not New York City, far away from there. Okay, so he's like, I need money as the sheriff for the following things. So he's going to the county officials and saying, this is what I need. Give me money for this. Mm-hmm. Their response to him is, well, we also want the cops to wear body cameras, and that costs a lot of money. Mm-hmm. So the question is, which one needs what's the priority here? Mm-hmm. That is a legit debate to have. I'm not going to pretend I know which one is more important, but the town leaders were basically saying, well, right now, it seems like body cams seem like they would be more important for the sake of transparency because there have been so many issues with cops doing bad things.
Read the room, guys.
And so when Sheriff Timothy Howard went to this meeting of the county legislature's Public Safety Committee meeting, and he's making his case for why they should have other priorities, and the town officials are saying, well, what about body cams? That's a bigger priority. here's his response. What he wants to say is, our police department doesn't do anything wrong. How dare you insinuate we need body cams to show people? Like, there have been no formal protests against my department. So like this, like, you don't need transparency for us. We're good people.
Yeah.
Like, right. Well, that's great. But body cams are helpful for when you're not good people, which if you're good people, you shouldn't have anything to... Okay, whatever. You know what the arguments are for the body cams.
Yeah.
But here's what he said to them. Then he tries the guilt trip route.
Oh, no.
And he's like, I often wonder, how did Jesus feel when doubting Thomas, when Thomas didn't believe that he came back from the dead? The story is like, no, but Thomas is like, Jesus didn't come back from the dead. And everyone else is like, yeah, he totally did. He's like, I'll believe it when I see it. Then Jesus comes back and he's like, look at my hole in my hand.
Ooh.
I'm making this up. I don't actually know the story.
Well,
and then
Jesus
doubting Thomas
so
is like, well, now I see it. So now I believe you, which is like, yeah, good. Now you saw proof. I don't care if you doubt you don't doubt because you saw evidence. Doubting Thomas is not the bad guy in that story. He asked for evidence. Okay.
He's a skeptic in this story, which we're not the most popular people.
So anyway, here's the sheriff again. I often wonder, how did Jesus feel when Thomas didn't believe that he came back from the dead? And how did all the other apostles feel when Thomas said that you're lying, that Jesus didn't come back? But I do have to say, I'm offended. And our deputies on the road are honorable people.
Sure.
Basically, like, you're accusing us of something, but like, we're telling the truth here. Why don't you just believe us when we tell you we are doing nothing wrong?
Told you.
We're like Jesus in this department.
Cool.
You are the doubters. How dare you?
It's fucking stupid.
Even though Thomas is the hero in that story for asking for evidence and seeing it.
I mean, are there any heroes in the Bible?
Touche. So anyway.
That's fucking
everyone's
stupid.
Comparing themselves to
Fuck
Jesus
that dumb
this
guy.
week.
I have one more like hard bummer story.
All right,
so
go
if
hard
you
bummer.
Okay. So the UN, the United Nations.
Oh,
you've
good.
heard of them.
Yes.
So between this is a thing I didn't know about. Sexual violence in war is a thing that has been scaling up. It's obviously always been a problem. But according to this study, between 1992 and 1995, this example they have, Serb troops systemically raped at least 20,000 girls and women, according to the European Commission. In a 1996 report, it detailed that, quote, impregnated girls have been forced to bear, quote, the enemy's child, thus exposing them to lifelong psychological scars. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
The United Nations State of the World's Children concluded sexual violation of women erodes the fabric of a community in a way that few weapons can. So as a result of this, the UN has been working to pass a bill to end sexual violence in war.
Seems sensible.
This week, that bill did pass, but guess what? The U.S. was like, I think we're going a little too far with protecting women.
God,
can you pump the brakes?
We are the worst.
The worst. So the U.S. has been objecting for weeks to remove all... Okay, so here's the problem.
Yeah.
The resolution said that the resolution called us to support victims through better access to justice, medical, and psychological help, specifically with sexual health.
So, like, if they are raped, like, let's make sure they have access to birth control and things like that.
Precisely. And, like, the proud Republicans before him, Donald Trump has been on a really cool crusade to say, like, hey, if you're going to get any aid from the U.S., you cannot even, like, whisper abortion near a clinic. So the problem that the U.S. had was they wanted to remove all references in that paper to reproductive or sexual health, which the U.S. delegation feared would be understood as support for abortion.
Oh, my God.
So they didn't even use the word abortion.
They use the evangelical code words.
Exactly. So what happened is because the U.S. has such a strong influence, they watered down the bill. They removed any talk of because
God, we're the worst.
Because the U.S. was going to not boycott it, but what's the word? Not filibuster, but
not sign it for
I
damn
guess.
Sure. God, that's
so
awful.
I think the reactions are interesting. The German foreign minister, he said the resolution calls on all UN member states to support victims through better access to justice, medical and psychological assistance and reintegration into society. Right. So like he was like, you kind of fucked up, but like. The French ambassador was like, no. Women and girls who suffered from sexual violence and conflict, who obviously didn't choose to become pregnant, should have the right to terminate their pregnancy. Like, France is coming hard for our abortion rights, and, like, good for y'all.
Good. Jesus.
So, anyway, the U.S. is a fucking nightmare.
Yes, we are the worst. We know this 2020.
world. Oh, I made it again.
Sure you did. I got one last one, then we'll wrap it up. I don't know if you know Rachel Held Evans.
You know what? I don't know her personally.
She's a progressive Christian writer. She's written a couple of books. She's very good about pushing back against the religious right.
Did we interview
on Twitter?
her on
I think we did interview her on the show a long while ago. And I've known her on the internet for a long, long time. I don't think I've ever met her in person, but lovely person. As far as like progressive Christianity goes, hard push for it.
She's doing it right.
Told one of the things that she was well known for in terms of controversy in evangelical circles is in 2016 when people were like ambivalent about who to vote for, partly because of the abortion issue.
Right.
She's like, if you want to reduce abortions in America, vote for Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
Right? Because she will do all the protective stuff, the contraception care, healthcare stuff, social stuff.
We align on almost everything except for like her belief.
And she got plenty of pushback, right? How dare you tell us to vote for a Democrat who's pro-choice?
She's a good one.
One of the other things I like about her is that she wrote a book years ago that was talking about her upbringing in like a very conservative Christian world. And she was talking about sex education, and she mentioned the word vagina in the context of an educational lesson.
Oh, yeah.
And they banned the book from Lifeway Christian stores.
Which are coincidentally folding. I can't believe it.
The physical stores are folding. Anyway, the reason I bring that up is Rachel had an allergic reaction to some medication last week, and she's currently, like, it was really bad. She's in a medically induced coma. I don't know any more than that, other than I haven't heard any other bad news since then, which makes me hope that everything is getting better, but I don't know that yet. I don't think she's out of the coma yet, but just sending all my love in that direction because
we're thinking about her.
There was a hashtag from a lot of Christians, hashtag pray for RHE, Rachel Held Evans. But you see a lot of people saying lovely things on there. There's a GoFundMe page for her too. But yeah, it's one of the good ones, and like I hope she does okay and makes it through.
Yeah.
That is all.
We're thinking about you.
Where can we find you?
Oh, actually, before we go, I want to talk about Joe Biden.
You got 1 minute. I got to pick up some kids. Oh, do you have to
go? Okay, it doesn't matter then. I was going to talk about Joe Biden and how I felt about it. Yeah, you can find me on... this is what I wanted to tell you.
What's your next Fables episode?
Wait, really quick. Blueberry, BLUEBURIE
yeah,
on Twitter.
Haven't Meta.
Go to Friendly Atheist Podcast. Somebody invited us to her high school graduation party. It like literally made me cry in a Panera today. It was the sweetest email. Thank you so much and congratulations on your graduation. My happy thing, skipping over everything else, my happy thing, my best friend from college, Leslie, who was on the pilot episode of Fables.
Yes.
We read Roxane Gay's Bad Feminist together, and I re-listened to it, and I was afraid I was going to be very embarrassed because Leslie and I are a lot when we're together. We call ourselves Jessly. It's exhausting. I get it.
Yes.
And to me, it was like, I'm so glad I had this frozen moment of like my friendship with this person whom I adore. And anyway, she's literally en route right now from Louisville to come up and stay with me for the weekend. Nice. So I took tomorrow off. And I was talking to her like, let's record another Fables episode. And she didn't want to read a book because I also said this like 2 days ago. No, well, I also gave her like 48 hours notice. So what we're going to do this weekend, she's coming into town, and we're going to watch the DVD that I have of the musical Cats.
Oh, my God.
And then we're going to record a podcast about it. And then there's a remake of Cats coming at the end of this year, starring people like Taylor Swift.
Oh, my God.
Idris Elba, maybe? Others, etc.
That is quite possibly the worst musical ever.
I am fucking stoked about it. We're gonna watch it together and then record it. So this is the first of a 2-part Fables episode. And y'all, if you want to hear two women who earnestly love something, this is not an ironic. We're not like doing a bit. I fucking love this musical.
You have 30 seconds.
Anyway, all you have to do is donate on Patreon, just like $1 a month. You have access to, there's probably a dozen or so.
Yes, it'll be posted as a Patreon-only episode as soon as we get to it.
Yeah, all you have to do is like $1 a month, and you get, I don't know, a few episodes that we did only for Patreon, including Hammett watching Star Wars, I think is a Patreon only.
Yes.
Anyway, that's it. Happy long weekend to me.
Bye.